我38岁了，到现在才想明白一件事。
I'm 38 years old, and it wasn't until now that I finally figured something out. But now that I get it, I feel like I'm already way too late. A lot of people think that being broke just means eating poorer meals, wearing worn-out clothes, and living a tight lifestyle. I used to think the same way, but let me tell you that kind of thinking is a complete trap. Being genuinely broke isn't that romanticized version of just pinching pennies and pulling through. It's lying awake at 2 or 3 in the morning, running the numbers over and over in your head, and still coming up empty by sunrise. It's wanting to buy something for your family, opening your mouth to speak, and then swallowing your words back down. It's not even having the right to get sick, because a single trip to the hospital could mean you can't survive the rest of the month. I'm not here to play the victim. I just want to tell you something dead serious and real. When you are young, you must save money, and you must learn a trade. I didn't realize this until I was 38, but I hope you don't have to wait until you reach my age. When I was young, I honestly didn't have this mindset at all. I thought as long as I had food today, tomorrow could take care of itself. As soon as I got my paycheck, I spent it. I thought, hey, I'm still young. And I never bothered learning a real practical trade. I figured any job was just a job. But now that I've reached this age, my body can't handle heavy manual labor anymore. And employers look down on light jobs because I'm older and have no specialized technical skills. If you want to start learning something from scratch now, you don't have the time or the energy. If I look for work today, all I can offer is physical labor, but my body refuses to cooperate. My lower back is shot, my knees are ruined, and after 2 days of heavy physical work, I'm completely laid up. Right now, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place with zero options. That's what I want to tell you. Every single dollar you save when you're young, and every single skill you master, becomes your bargaining chip when negotiating with life. If you have no chips, you just have to obey whatever life dictates, but if you have chips, even just a few, at least you retain the power to say no, and that word no is worth far more than you can imagine. What terrifies me most right now isn't just my own struggles, it's the fear that my children will end up just like me. For kids growing up in families with no financial backing, the road ahead is infinitely harder. Take my son, for example. Many of you know the story of Rickshaw Boy, right? Zhangzi worked his heart out his whole life just wanting to own his own rickshaw. He worked so hard, fought so fiercely, yet his rickshaw was stolen, his money was scammed, and reality knocked him down time after time. Today, many boys from ordinary families are just modern versions of Zhangzi, delivery riders working 10 to 12 hours a day through wind and rain. If the platform tweaks its algorithms, they get fined. If a customer leaves a single bad review, their entire day's work is flushed away. Ride-share drivers renting their cars and paying for their own gas, grinding all day only to net pennies. Construction workers sweating under 100-degree heat, only to risk having the contractor run off with their hard-earned wages at the end of the year. It's not that he isn't working hard enough, it's that he has no right to choose. If he wants to learn a technical skill, he can't afford the tuition. Even if he somehow learns it, without connections or a background, the good jobs will never go to him. When it comes time for marriage, the dowries, the houses, and the cars are all astronomical figures. He could work a blue-collar job his entire life and still not afford a single bathroom. That's not because he's incompetent. It's because in a family with zero accumulated wealth, the child is born miles behind at the starting line. If we as parents don't save money while we're young and don't pave a bit of a path for him, he has to shoulder the entire weight of the world all by himself. Now look at daughters. Many people assume raising a daughter comes with less financial pressure, but that's simply not true. The path for a girl without family backing is often even more heartbreaking. If she happens to be exceptionally attractive, being in an environment at the bottom isn't necessarily a blessing. Without resources, a safety net, or life experience, she easily becomes a target. A few sweet words or a tiny favor could lead her to make devastating life choices. It's not that she's foolish, it's that nobody ever taught her how to spot the difference between genuine care and calculated exploitation. If she's average looking, it's even tougher. Her options are extremely limited, leaving her with low-paying jobs with zero room for growth, factory work, waiting tables, or basic sales. Trying to change her destiny through higher education requires her to be exceptionally talented, and her family has to be able to support her through it. But so many struggling families can't hold out, forcing her to drop out early and work to help support the household. When it's time to marry, reality is just as unforgiving. Those in good positions choose partners in good positions, leaving her with no choice but to settle with someone in the exact same struggling boat, living day by day in financial strain. That's why my biggest regret in life is not saving more money and not learning a trade when I was young. Because every single dollar I saved could have been an extra path opened up for my children. There's an old saying, poverty doesn't last past 3 generations. So many people misunderstand this phrase, thinking that by the 3rd generation, a family automatically becomes rich. Let me tell you what it actually means. Under extreme financial hardship, some people are forced to delay marriage, or even give up on marriage and children entirely. It's not that they don't want a family. It's that they simply cannot carry the financial burden. Dowries, housing, and child education aren't things you can solve just by gritting your teeth alone. So when people say poverty doesn't last past 3 generations, it doesn't mean you'll magically turn things around. It means that once you reach a certain level of poverty, you barely even get the chance to establish a family in the first place. This isn't fate, it's basic mathematics. If you can't save money, your ability to withstand risks drops to 0, and the next generation starts at an even lower baseline, making accumulation even harder. The only way to break this vicious cycle is for one generation in the line to grit their teeth, save every penny they can, and master a real trade. Even if you only manage to build a modest cushion or master one solid skill, the entire trajectory of your family will change. The filtering mechanism of this world has always been cold and pragmatic. Without savings, you have zero ability to handle unexpected risks. If someone in the family falls gravely ill, years of savings won't last long in a hospital bed. Between going completely broke or living the rest of your life in guilt, which one do you choose? You don't even get a choice. So I sincerely advise all of you, especially those in your 20s or early 30s who aren't married yet or have just started a family. First, force yourself to save money. No matter how tough things get, put away 50 or 100 every single month without fail. It's not about getting rich. It's so that if you lose your job one day, you can still survive for 3 months. That financial breathing room can save your life. Second, learn a practical trade as early as you can, whether it's auto repair, electrical work, barbering, cooking, video editing, or graphic design. A skilled trade worker will always have a table to eat at. That is the one thing nobody can ever strip away from you. Third, don't wait until you're fully prepared to start. You will never be 100% ready. Start right now, even if your progress is slow. It is miles better than standing still and watching life pass you by. I'm not sharing this at 38 because I've succeeded. I'm sharing it precisely because I failed to do it myself, and I don't want you to end up at this exact same spot. Saving money and mastering a trade are the most practical sources of leverage ordinary people have against the hardships of life. If this video can wake up even one young person and get them to take action a little earlier, then making it was worth every second.
What this 38-year-old Chinese man laid bare is something every young person drifting through life truly needs to hear. When you're young, you often think that being broke just means eating a bit cheaper, wearing simpler clothes, and pulling through by tightening your belt. But that's not what it's really about. Real poverty isn't just physical deprivation, it's the overwhelming sense of helplessness when you have zero choices left. It's being too afraid to visit a hospital when you're sick. It's watching your family want something, feeling the words rise to your mouth, and swallowing them back down. It's lying wide awake at 2 or 3 in the morning, running numbers over and over, and still coming up empty by sunrise. The part that hurts the most is when he talked about the modern-day rickshaw boys. Think about the gig workers delivering food, driving ride shares, or sweating under the blistering sun on construction sites. Who among them isn't working their heart out? They grind for 12 or 14 hours a day, through wind and rain. But hard work alone isn't enough anymore. The moment platform algorithms tweak or the economy cools off, their income vanishes overnight. It's not that they aren't fighting hard enough, it's that they have no chips in their hands, leaving life free to push them around however it pleases. And then there's that old saying, poverty doesn't last past 3 generations. I used to think it meant a family would magically turn things around by the 3rd generation. Now, I finally understand how cold the reality actually is when poverty reaches a certain point. People don't even have the financial cushion to marry or have kids, and the cycle simply grinds to a halt on its own. Without savings, without a trade, and without connections, your kids are born miles behind at the starting line. A son has to give every ounce of energy just to barely scrape by, while a daughter grows up without anyone to teach her how to navigate the complexities of human nature. One generation struggles, and every generation after suffers. That isn't fate, it's the inevitable result of zero accumulated wealth. But that being said, ordinary people aren't entirely out of options. The two most reliable things in life will always be saving money and mastering a trade. Saving money isn't about being stingy, it's about giving yourself breathing room. Even if you only manage to put away $100 a month, the moment you face a sudden layoff or an emergency, that cash keeps you from spiraling into panic and saves you from having to beg others for help. Learning a trade is even more practical. Whether it's auto repair, cooking, graphic design, or video editing, as long as it's a hard skill built into your own hands, you will always have a table to eat at. Nobody can ever strip that away from you. And it's the only bargaining chip you have when negotiating with life. When we're young, we think living in the moment is the coolest thing, while talking about saving money or learning a practical craft feels boring and mundane. But once you reach the age where you have elderly parents above you and young kids below you, you finally get it. Every single dollar you save and every skill you master isn't just building a safety net for yourself, it's paving a path for your children. It's fine to be broke temporarily. What's scary is being clueless in your youth, only to find yourself trapped with zero way out when you get older. Don't wait until you're 38 to regret it. Start saving and start learning right now, it's never too late.